Thanks for staying with us on The Real Story. We just heard from the governor about how he's hoping to attract and retain businesses and people, but it's the job of the Department of Economic and Community Development to strategize and oversee programs that will help promote business and recruitment. The department's new commissioner isn't necessarily new at all. She was the deputy commissioner before that, now taking over for David Lehman, who left at the end of the governor's first term. So joining us now, Commissioner Alexandra Daum. Good morning, and thanks so much for being here.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
And nice to meet you.
Yeah, you too.
All right, so tell us about yourself and your background. Where did you grow up, and how did you end up here?
So I grew up in a little place called New York City.
Just a little place.
So nearby.
Yep.
Don't hold it against me. I'm a 6-year convert to Connecticut, and very ardently so. So I live in New Haven,
okay,
and madly in love with it. So my background before this was entirely in the private sector, mostly in real estate development,
yep,
which is something that definitely served me well, is continuing to serve me well. We have a lot of real estate investments coming through the Department of Economic and Community Development, and it was my main focus when I started with the department 3 years ago. So yeah, mostly a smattering of private sector background, but really the focus of it on real estate development.
And you worked alongside, obviously, the former commissioner. You, I'm told, have kind of a new team in place. So what's your strategy for Connecticut, and how are you bringing in what you were working on before with, you now heading it?
Yeah, I would say I've been talking to a lot of folks in the new role, and the question is, what's the big difference from how Commissioner Lehman was doing it? And it's not the most exciting headline, but we're not changing a whole lot because we think we were onto something under Commissioner Lehman. We think we're doing a good job, and with Governor Lamont's guidance, of course, we think we were going about things the right way. So not a huge shift in strategy, really doubling down on the things that we thought were working. The one place I would say there's probably an increased emphasis under my leadership would be in the community development element and that real estate element, and just a huge focus on making sure that our communities are places that people want to live and work. Now those things are basically the same. If you're working remotely, you're working in the same place that you're living. Sure. So it's really important that we have communities where that are drawing people in, that are really like magnets for people to come to the state because they just want to live there.
Housing is a big issue right now, especially, if you're trying to buy a house right now, good luck, because it's really hard to find. There's not a lot of inventory. Obviously, interest rates are an issue. How does your administration, or you, and your department, deal with that? Or is there a solution?
It's a perfect question, because probably 4 years ago, and in any sort of generation before that, any iteration before that of the agency, housing would have been one of 15 things that we cared about. And certainly it's important to any economy, but it just wouldn't have been as top of mind as it is today. So we are hearing from businesses. Normally a business visit before, housing might have been, like I said, the 12th thing they mentioned. Now it's frequently the first thing that a CEO is mentioning. Hey, I can't hire people because I give them the offer, it seems like they're about to accept, they start checking Zillow, and they can't find some place that makes sense for them, and they just stay where they are. So it's clearly a workforce issue, and we have the Department of Housing, so we have partners with a great agency that's putting a lot of money into building housing, but DECD also takes a really active role in creating housing. We have a couple of different grant programs that put real dollars into capital projects, into real estate projects throughout the state, and we're making sure that, all else being equal, we want to make sure these are good projects with good partners, all that, but all else being equal, really prioritizing projects that involve a housing component, whereas in the past we might have just said, hey, what's the best leverage, or what's the best partner? We're now saying, what's the best leverage, what's the best partner, and does it include housing? Because that's really important, and we're getting that extra emphasis on that in all of our competitive programs.
Interesting. All right, we asked the governor this. Does Connecticut have a perception problem? Because, obviously the narrative has been over the last several years that you have these corporate headquarters that are leaving. I feel like everyone kind of went back into that mode when they heard about Lego in Enfield. So it's, your office is the one that has to kind of counter that in some ways. How do you do that?
So I agree with the governor in that our perception problem is much better than it was before. I still think we have a significant way to go and a lot of room to make up, and I consider that personal priority number one. A couple are tied for one, but it's up there.
It's up there.
And I think it has to not only do with the corporate environment, which I think where I think we have made a lot of progress. I think the other reputational place, the place where we need to work on our reputation, is on just sort of the quality, the types of environments that we have in the state, the diversity that we have in the state, the lifestyles that are available within the state. People don't think of Connecticut as a place where you can have an urban, walkable downtown lifestyle. And we have great cities. They are small cities, but they are great cities. I live in downtown New Haven. I already have said I'm madly in love with it, but it's really true. And we have amazing, I'm not playing favorites, you know, we have Stamford, we have Hartford, we have great, Norwalk. We have great cities that provide that lifestyle that's become really popular with sort of millennials and younger generations. And we need to make sure that the word is getting out there, that if you want to live in a suburb, great, we have great suburbs. We have great rural areas. We also have great urban environments. And so it's important to me that we make sure everyone knows Connecticut's cool.
Very true. Is there anything that you feel like you all weren't doing before that needs to be done now?
I wouldn't say, well, define before. Or
Sorry, during when you were deputy commissioner, is there anything that you know, during Governor Lamont's first term, would you say?
I think maybe we were maybe a little reactive on this reputational front. I want to hit it head on. I want to be out there extremely aggressively changing this narrative, not letting the facts speak for themselves, which is frequently a good strategy and maybe the one that we were taking before, and the facts did speak for themselves, but I think we should let them speak for themselves and then also really get out on the road and attack this reputational issue, because I think we have a really big opportunity to tell the world all the good stuff that's going on here that they may not know.
Okay. Commissioner Alexandra Daum, thank you so much for coming on the program. It's very nice to meet you.
You too. Thank you for having me.
All right, so that does it for us on The Real Story. If you want to watch these segments again, you can head to fox61.com, or you can download the Fox 61 app and watch The Real Story every Sunday at 10 a.m. right here on Fox 61 and streaming on Fox 61 Plus. Have a great morning.